Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with a pretty interesting looking figure here. This is something that I stumbled upon recently at Five Below. Now, I was at Five Below looking for some captives and stuff like that because they seem to get, some captives that other places don't get, like the hatchlings and stuff they had. So I was over there looking for some new captives and stumbled upon this, which is apparently a new line of dinosaurs making an appearance at Five Below, and for the most part they're pretty terrible looking, except for this one kind of looked a little bit fun and at the same time also terrible, but at least a little more fun than the others. And I assume it's an Allosaurus. It kind of is painted similarly sort of to like a Velociraptor blue, except rather than a blue stripe we have a black stripe, so it's Allosaurus black, I guess. But it was interesting enough to immediately draw me in, and once I saw that it was only like $3.25 or some random price like that, I thought, well, I'll just pick it up because it's kind of fun looking, and at the very least it'll give me a fun review to make. If you turn the box around and you take a look here at the back, you can see the other figures that are in this line. Obviously this, again, I assume it's an Allosaurus, but I don't really know because I don't think it says anywhere on here what species we are messing around with here. Now it just tells us it's a dinosaur. But here on the back you can see that we have two different versions of a T-Rex. One is awful. One, I think I already have this guy. I don't think he's a light and sound version, but it was one that came in a, what was that brand? It was like an Animal Planet brand. Blip Toys, I think it is, made this figure. I don't know if I ever reviewed him or not, but I do have him here, so I'll have to review him at some point. But this is the only one that really struck me as interesting, so it's the only one that I grabbed. I'm pretty certain it's going to be terrible, but I grabbed it anyway, so let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So here it is now in, I guess, all of its glory. I'm surprised it's standing because it actually feels like it has pretty loose joints. I don't know what it is about this figure, but it looks very familiar to me, but I cannot quite put my finger on where I've seen it before, if I have. Like, the detail of the figure itself looks a lot like the Wow World figures, but also kind of looks like maybe sort of like a Kid Galaxy type figure. I'm really not sure, but it's kind of a fun looking, again, I guess an Allosaurus. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but it is pretty neat looking. Here at first glance, the tail length is surprisingly a little bit better than I was expecting. I really thought it was going to have a super short tail, which it does still have a bit of a shorter tail, but it's not quite as bad as I was expecting. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this, and we'll check it out from there. So starting up at the head sculpt of our Allosaurus, you can see straight away the detail looks okay for what it is. It's got some decent looking scale detail and stuff, specifically in the palate. You can see the scale detail looks pretty nice. The eye paint is shockingly nice as well. We've got a green and a black pupil. Now, when I had seen the T-Rex that they were offering, which we had just seen in the back of the packaging, the eye paint on all of them were terrible, like absolutely awful. The eyes, honestly, didn't even look like they tried at all. So it's surprising that the eye paint is so bad on those in store, but not that bad on this one. It actually looks pretty decent. We do have nostrils up here. For some reason, they look super huge. And we also have an articulated jaw, but it really doesn't close much. You can see that's as close to closed as you can really get it. It just opens a little bit wider. Not even all that much, but a little bit. Here on the inside of the mouth, you can see the teeth. They're looking okay. Again, not great. The paintwork is a little bit, too much. Like, they've just kind of applied a little too much paint. And in some areas, like here, you can see not even all of the teeth are painted. They kind of missed some, but it looks okay, I guess. Weirdly enough, you can see if you look at the tongue, like, the tongue looks like it has teeth around the edges of the tongue. That is very, very weird. I didn't notice that previously when I was in the store. Not really much in the way of detailing, no paintwork or anything for the inside of the mouth. There is a little light there on the inside of the mouth on the upper side because this is a light and sound figure, but the teeth don't look that great, and the fact that the figure for some reason has like teeth on the tongue is really weird. Also, you can see that another thing that's kind of weird about this figure is the dominant side I would expect to be this side because it's kind of turning its neck toward us and stuff, but they placed a screw hole right here in the back of the jaw, so it looks extremely awkward in that area, whereas when you turn it around to the less dominant side, No screw hole. I don't understand it. In fact, there's no screw holes at all on this side. Normally, a company would put the screw holes on the back side of the figure, whereas this time they put them on the front. So I don't really know what this company is thinking, but they're, not doing so great straight off the bat. As you move back into the neck, you can see some okay looking detail, but some of the areas are definitely muted. Like you can see some very, very much so muted detail there. Lots of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff, but it doesn't look quite as nice as what we see up here in the face. There is actually neck articulation though. It's a little bit stiff, but you can see you can swivel the neck all the way around if you choose to. Weird place to as well put the stamp for the figure on the underside of the lower jaw. There's a whole lot of weird things going on with this figure. As you move down, you can see, actually, you can also see that we have that black coloration also outlined with a white. So again, very Velociraptor bluish, I think, except it's black instead of blue. But as you move down into the body, the detailing doesn't look that bad down here. It's got some okay looking detail moving through the figure. We do also have articulation in the arms, which actually moves really nicely. It definitely has some very smooth articulation. Both arms have that pretty smooth articulation, so you can put the arms back, you can put them forward. Definitely very nicely done as far as that goes. And the material, although feeling very cheap, is a little bit flexible. You can see you can kind of flex the fingers and stuff. It is a plastic, but it absolutely has a very cheap feel. As you move down into the arm, you can see some muscle definition here for the arm. You've got some scoots running down the fingers. You have the nails here that are sculpted decently, but not painted at all. I feel like the arms and hands are definitely a bit too large for the figure as a whole, but I'm not really going to base this figure off of accuracy or perfection. You can see here on the side we've got a few slits because this is, again, like I said, a light and sound figure, so that's where the sound, I guess, would come from. As you move up here, you can see the spinal column moving along the back of the dinosaur, leading down here into the leg. You have some decent muscle definition, some okay-looking skin texture. Again, a little bit muted in a few areas, but not too bad. You've got the knee right there. You also have a calf muscle in the back, and as you move down into the foot, you have some scoots moving down through the toes. Again, some nicely sculpted nails, even some fine detail to the nails, a little extra like plastic and stuff you can see here and there, but the actual sculpt doesn't look terrible. And we also have dew claws, but again, no actual paintwork for those areas. You do also have leg articulation. That's about as far forward as it goes. It can actually go pretty far back. It can loop almost all the way back around. So again, decent mobility for the figure. Same deal for the opposing leg, but you can see it's very, very loose. So that's why I was surprised that it actually stood fairly okay. As you move back, you can see another screw hole right here. You can also see some, again, decent skin texture. Very different style of skin texture for the underside. As you lead out, you've got a little bit of a curve to the tail. It looks like you should have articulation here, but you actually don't. The tail comes disconnected in the packaging, and you just kind of slide it into that spot right there. As you move along the underside, you can see, again, some okay detail. You can also see kind of like some seams and stuff, because the figure, as I said, very, very cheaply made, very cheaply put together. You can even see that here on the top of the head, actually, when you look at it straight from the front. Big, ugly seam right there where it's not even completely put together all that well. If you look at the opposing side, again, you're going to see pretty much the same thing. The only real difference over here would be, of course, the slight difference in positioning of the leg, the fact that the head is looking away from us, and there's a button over here, again, to give us the light and sound aspect of the figure, which we will get to here in a minute. And the tail, of course, curves toward us. But sculpt-wise, it's okay. It's kind of fun for what it is. And for a $3 and like 25-cent figure, it's kind of cool, I guess. But it's also very cheap feeling, very cheaply made, and definitely not that great of a figure. Now, as far as the light and sound aspect goes, of course, so, first of all, our Allosaurus, for no reason whatsoever, has a light on the inside of his mouth, almost making it look like he kind of has like an atomic breath like a Godzilla. And to coincide with that, we also have a Godzilla roar. So, I don't know when we'll ever trail away from those Godzilla roars on dinosaur figures, but, I mean, we again have it here. I'll do it one more time just in case you want to see it once more. I'm sorry to torture you guys. You can see the light lighting up in there. Definitely makes an interesting figure, and of course the Godzilla noises, I have found those on so many figures over the years. It's actually pretty crazy. I'm still impressed with the fact that this thing stands at all. And you can even reposition it, as you can see. Not perfectly, like if you go right here. Oh, I was wrong. I was going to say it seemed like it was going to fall. Maybe a little tap will get it. Yeah, it doesn't take much to knock it back down, but surprised that it actually stands as nicely as it does. Now I go ahead and move it, and it messes up. But as far as a size goes, for a length from the snout to the tail, about 10 inches or 25.5 centimeters. And then for a height in the position it's in currently, a little over 4 inches or about 10.5 centimeters. And again, that could be altered depending on the way you position it, because you could pose it upright a lot more. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Allosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our random 5 Below Allosaurus. And you can see it has an okay size to it, but it is definitely quite small. It's pretty much in the size range you would probably expect it to be if you are familiar with these type of dinosaur toys. But for another comparison to further show you that, there is a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus. Now you can see the figure is obviously a lot smaller than you would find when it comes to an Allosaurus in the Mattel line. It's nowhere near reaching the size of like a Roarovore or anything like that. It's a little bit bigger, as you can clearly see. A little bit bigger than like an Attack Pack, Danger Pack, even a Strike Attack type figure. It's not too much larger than that. So I feel like we don't really need too many comparisons. I don't think too many people are going to be worried about the scale of this one, but if you happen to have any Mattel figures in your collection, this should give you at least a decent idea as far as a size goes for this one. So this random Allosaurus from 5 Below, I don't even know if there was actually a company on the box that was associated with this, now that I think about it. So looking again at the box, the only logo I can even find on there, or company name, is ASTM, which I've never heard of in my life. So I have no idea if they are who makes this figure or what. Whoever it is, they don't really care too much about, showing off their name and company. But the figure is honestly kind of okay, but kind of terrible. Like, it doesn't look that bad as far as the sculpt goes. It's clearly not an accurate Allosaurus. It's not even close. And I don't even know for sure, again, if it is meant to be an Allosaurus. It's kind of a mystery to me. But when you get when you get like cheap dinos like this, and you see something that looks like this, it's usually meant to be an Allosaurus because it's one of the more popular dinosaur species. But you just really never know. But again, the figure's okay as far as the fine detail goes. Definitely a bit muted in certain areas, but overall it doesn't look half bad. And the overall appearance to it is kind of fun. I don't really know what it is about it. It's just sort of appealing to me, which is the reason why I purchased it in the first place. Kind of reminds me of like what you would see in a movie in like the 90s displaying an Allosaurus. It almost kind of gives me that sort of feel. But the sculpt isn't terrible. The paint, not so great. There's really not much going on as far as this goes. You really only have the gray coloration, and then you have that black stripe that leads back into the hip region and disappears, almost in Mattel-type fashion. You have no painted nails, no other coloration for the underside, nothing else really going on outside of the paintwork for the teeth and eyes. So paint-wise, it's pretty lackluster. I also don't quite understand their decision to give us the screw holes as well as the opening for the sound on the more dominant side of the figure. I think that was a horrible idea, and definitely, is a downside, definitely an eyesore for the figure as a whole. It does have articulation, and some areas work pretty nicely, like the arms and legs, but then you have the jaw that is pretty terrible, and that's just not really that great. The neck articulation's okay, but nothing spectacular or special at all. And we also have a light up feature as well as a sound effect, which is the Godzilla roar, which doesn't do this figure any favors. Not really a fan of any of that. Maybe young kids could enjoy that, but even taking into consideration that kids might enjoy that, the figure is so cheaply made because it feels genuinely very cheap when you hold it, that I feel like they'll probably smash this not long after acquiring it if you do buy it for like a younger kid. So the figure definitely has its ups and has its downs. It's absolutely not what I would say is a stellar figure, but it might be a fun one to pick up if you happen to be near a Five Below at some point in the future. I don't say run out and go find one, but if you happen to be near one and you're like, that Allosaurus on Andy's video looked kind of cool, yeah, sure, go grab it, I guess. But one way or another, I'm very interested in hearing your opinions of it, so in the comments section, let me know what you guys think of it, and of course, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.